excited about this panel. So I thought instead of the usual kind of, I spent 2 years at Google introductions that people do, we do kind of protocol introductions rather than just individual. So Peter Thiel has this great line, which says that competition is for losers. And I think what we've seen kind of proven out is that you can get a great, VC pump return as an alt L1 just playing off the narrative. But to really create something kind of massive and transformational, like a 0 to 1 kind of thing, you have to do something fundamentally different, right? So like ETH launched, it had smart contract, right? Solana launched, it was lightning fast and monolithic, and like that was like a 0 to 1 innovation, right? But I think we've seen that like when you do something on the margins, like we're a little bit faster, we're a little bit X, like you don't really get kind of a transformational sticky product. So I'd love it if all of our panelists could kind of one by one give me, the name of your protocol, and then give me one sentence about why you effectively are doing something so different that you don't have competition. Like, start with you, Smokey.
Yeah, sounds good. Can you guys hear me okay? Is this any better? Okay, cool. I'll go under the mouse for this one. Hey guys, I'm Smokey. I'm one of the co-founders of Berachain. And the reason the Berachain doesn't have competition as we see it is that it prioritizes driving value to applications and users building on the chain. And really enabling builders to go 0 to 1 if we're to lean into Thielian quotes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eunice. I'm with Monad Labs. We're building the Monad blockchain. We're an EVM compatible layer 1. We're specializing in parallelized execution. The reason why we're distinct from several others that are also touting parallel execution is that we're redesigning the entire stack from scratch, rebuilding the entire execution client, the consensus client, and making it completely optimized through and through.
Hi, this is Yubo. I'm the founder of Parallel Finance. So we're building an omni-chain layer 2 on Ethereum. The reason that we're different is that we aggregate multiple assets from different alt L1s and L2s, not just L2, an L2 with only Ethereum ecosystem assets. And second of all, we help users do cross-chain execution. So then the users can just use our chain without leaving it to execute arbitrary transactions on any other chains. It's on the user experience.
Okay, I'm Darius. I'm one of the co-founders from Vertex. I don't really look like that photo, so I'm going to have my comms guy fired for sending that in. What's different about Vertex? We really focused about closing the gap on centralized exchanges. I listened to the last panel a little bit, and I think everyone recognizes that on-chain experience doesn't match off-chain experience yet. That's something we're trying to solve for, and the thing that we're really putting a lot of our energies into right now is the cross-chain solution. We've built what we call a synchronous order book. It works across many chains at once, but it also prints activity, TVL, users onto each chain. So it's a way for us to align with chains and bring activity to them in a way that a lot of cross-chain solutions tend to be extractive rather than additive to the chains they're building on. So we think that's pretty special, and we see a lot of benefit for both the chains we're building on and for ourselves.
Awesome. That was great. Thanks, guys. So obviously this panel is about, getting liquidity onto new protocols. So I want to kind of tackle that question in sort of 2 phases, to kick us off. So the first is there's like a mechanism design question, right? Which is what kind of actual incentive constraints do you use to incentivize liquidity on your thing? And then there's like a biz dev kind of software marketing thing. So we'll take them like in turn. So starting off with the kind of actual, game theoretic mechanism design, whether it's airdrops or, staking incentives or tokenomics, like I'd love for each of you to tell us about what mechanisms and structures have you chosen to prioritize for your protocol, and why?
Yeah, for sure. So, Berachain basically uses what we call a tri-token structure, which, gets complex at times, but we figured that 3 tokens is better than 2, so, it couldn't have gone wrong, right? That worked really well last time. So jokes aside, really, the way this works on Berachain is that we're powered by something that we call proof of liquidity, which is a, variant of delegated proof of stake. The way this works is that users on the network can only earn the native governance and staking token of the network, called BGT, by actually doing the work of providing liquidity to the network. So they can't buy it on Binance, they can't go on a DEX and swap for it, etc. They actually have to contribute value to the ecosystem first. The way that this gets really interesting is that basically there's a set of primitives that are built into the chain when it goes live. So effectively a DEX, a purpose wallet, a lending market that can be used to bootstrap and build that initial BGT supply from the applications and from people LPing in them. But over time, any application on the chain, whether it be an NFT marketplace, a SocialFi platform, a delta neutral vault, interest rate derivatives, whatever it might be, can actually be enshrined into proof of liquidity, such that after going through a governance vote, that protocol can actually be both a source of BGT generation and emissions. This is effectively enabled by, validator protocol interactions, where the validators on Berachain are forwarding the vast majority of their block rewards towards protocols building on the chain. So when we think about actually bootstrapping liquidity, we think about, on one hand, doing this in a B2B2C manner, where you have a number of different protocols that can themselves bring in a whole bunch of TVL and attract liquidity into the network. And on the other hand, effectively, having these enshrined applications serve as an initial, very friendly, multiple risk spectrums, source for that liquidity to come into the network. And I think it sort of comes full circle because these BGT stakers who have provided liquidity to the network in the first place are then able to basically influence the distribution of rewards across the entire network, vote for their own pool so they get more emissions, and at the same time earn fees from the entire network's operation so that they are actually benefiting from the liquidity that they're providing in the first place.
So Monad is not quite live yet. We're still in development. So there's a lot of things that we're still working through as far as like incentives are concerned, but we're really focusing on various axes. Like there's developers that we are targeting. We're also targeting users. There's the liquidity providers via market makers and such, maybe also retail liquidity providers. What we're trying to do is identify what their needs are and address those needs head on. So from a user perspective, as far as like growth is concerned. So like on the user side of things, like right now we're very focused on growing out the community. And the reason being that the community is going to be the heart and soul of the users behind the Monad blockchain in the future. On the application side of things, the dev side of things, like they're the ones who are going to be building applications that these users are going to be using. Devs want a chain that has interested users. And, so that kind of goes hand in hand. Not only that, but they're also looking for a developer environment that is easy to use. The benefit of being EVM is that all of the existing tooling in place can be used for development on Monad. So all of the, common IDEs, frameworks and stuff can be used for Monad development. And then outside of that, as a proof of stake network, there will be block emissions. The numbers there, like we'll see. And separate of that, we're also exploring early stages of what a market making program can look like.
So we are parallel. We actually incentivize stacked yield for all L1 assets and stablecoins. And some of the protocols that only allow one native yield, we want to allow multiple native yield. A user can pick. So for example, liquidity staking token or liquid staking token or any, staked version of an asset we want to support. So essentially we're building the layer 2 on top of all of the staked versions, the staking derivative tokens. And then we also incentivize developers to build applications that specially designed for those staked tokens or staking derivative tokens to build, for example, lending protocols, staking, trading, etc. We really believe that it's critical for the user to choose the type of yield they want, and then we really aggregate in a way that they both have, the liquidity as well as the idiosyncratic type of yield that they want to achieve.
I'm going to use an analogy because there's a lot of technical language used there, and I see a lot of people looking at their phones, so maybe we can make it a bit more interesting. Just for the record, if this is being recorded, this is not permissible by the SEC in a court of law. But basically, right, an exchange is like running a casino effectively. That's the way I would think about it. Each token is like a gaming table, and then you got croupiers as your market makers, and then you got the people playing at the tables is your price takers, right? And generally in a normal casino structure, the people that get most fucked over are the people running the tables and the people playing on the tables. And the guy running the casino is the guy that makes the most money, right? I would say with Vertex, what we've tried to do is create like the world's first socialist casino, right? So we use the token. The more you game or the more you do on the table as a croupier, the more token you get. You hold that token, you get the profits back from the casino, right? And the more you do, the more you align over time, the more power over the exchange and what's going on you get. And we found that to be like a powerful model for building partnerships on a more technical basis. What does that mean for people? It means for market makers, the more commitment they have to us, the more they get effectively a market maker rebate, which is an effective model because you retain these tokens you get for free. Your rebate goes up and up implicitly in the staking rewards you get back. Same thing with the takers, right? The more you do, the more you keep, the more of it you get back. It lowers your cost of execution, and you get this kind of flywheel for building liquidity and momentum, and we think it's fun. I also got to talk about casinos, so that was great too.
The world's first socialist casino. That's great. GPT-3 would never. Anyway, okay, cool, guys. That was super interesting. So I think kind of moving on to the sort of second, axis of this that I talked about, there is like a whole set of kind of game theory, mechanism design you can do, which is really helpful and does kind of orient how people behave. But there's also just like a biz dev, go-to-market, marketing axis to all of this, right? And which is obviously super significant. Like if you look in the space, like Polygon, for example, right? Just an absolute killer biz dev team. And that really does kind of move the needle on like how much users are just going to want to like be part of your ecosystem or participate. So whether it's like, wearing a bear hat at conferences or just kind of having great outreach partners and stuff, like that stuff really matters too, like above and beyond the mechanistic kind of underlying. So yeah, I'd love to hear about like your perspectives on like what makes users like want to be a part of an ecosystem, like what gets them excited, like what kinds of marketing strategies work, what doesn't, like what have you guys chosen to prioritize, like talk about that.
Yeah, this is one that we think about a ton at Berachain, honestly. And part of that comes from our genesis story. For context, for anyone who isn't familiar with Berachain, we basically spun out of an NFT project of bears smoking weed that was made for absolute shits and giggles. And then, we built a community by accident by, building these rebasing NFTs that expanded in supply over time and ended up with a group of, thousands of relatively DeFi native users who had come from these communities that were, interested in problems that are at the intersection of liquidity, game theory, on-chain security, right? And we actually took that feedback from the community, and instead of, sort of taking the classic protocol approach, not to throw stones at anyone on this panel, et cetera, of like, hey, like we're going to spin out some new novel consensus mechanism from Cornell or Yale or whatever it is. We're like, hey, what if we just talk to the users, did the YC thing, build something that people want, and do something that actually, solves what we saw as a logical fallacy across, blockchains as a whole, which is to say the misalignment of liquidity and security at the protocol level when looking at a lot of proof of stake chains. And when we think about that extended to the BD or community building or user side, it meant that, we effectively had this group of people who was already very bought in both financially and sort of mentally into, what is, I guess, the genesis of a new network, right? And I think that having people feel like they're early, feel like they're special, feel like they're a valued part of the community, spending real time with them, as much of a meme as community sometimes is, was massively important for us. It gave rise to our first class of builders. It gave rise to these, basically these nodes within the ecosystem that act as a social validator set of sorts, right? They gossip, they talk shit, they help make sure the ecosystem's happy and that people are bull posting all over the place, even before the chain is live. And I very much do think that's what's helped contribute to like, the hundreds of thousands of people like fucking around with the testnet right now and the hundreds of applications that are building, half of which have like some weird Bera-themed name like Ooga Booga Finance or like Kodiak or anyway. So what I'm getting at here is that, for users, I think it's about actual real interaction. And then, it's really tough to replace that. And for applications and developers, I think it's actually about like, the tech is very much a threshold. You want to be able to have a decent experience. You want to maintain EVM compatibly, ideally, as Eunice mentioned. You want to be able to, decrease their switching costs and make their life relatively easy, from not having to redo their code base, redo integrations, et cetera. You want Chainlink, you want Layer 0, whatever it might be. But at the same time, it's very much a services industry at this point. It's how many problems can you remove for those users and those developers? How easily can you help them get new users? How can you show to them that there's an actual market? Because there's tons of block space out there, but, to say the quiet part out loud, no one really wants to fucking use it. So, for us, it's how do you make those developers feel like they actually have an edge in your ecosystem? And, showing the real part of that as well, which is, I think, where the mechanism design comes in. So we very much do think of it as like an active outreach service industry. It's not, if you build it, they'll come. It's you got to talk to them and then hopefully they'll come. And then maybe they'll have a weird bearer name by the end of it. So that's our TLDR.
I actually don't disagree with a lot of what Smokey said. Like, building the right product will not necessarily get you, past the threshold of just building a product. You need users. You need to actually highlight the intrinsic value that like your project or your product will bring to market. So I'm going to focus more on the marketing side, I guess. There's maybe two big types of marketing. One One way to market is by generating just a ton of hype. So like, generating FOMO and making it so big that people are like, it's hard to ignore. But that can be annoying, and that can also attract maybe the wrong types of users, the wrong type of attention. The other type, I think, is to actually just be very deliberate in highlighting what benefits your product or project has for users. So as an example, yesterday, and honestly, like almost every day, I use DoorDash. The first time I used DoorDash, I was given like a $25 credit or something. Great, free meal. What that did was not just give me the $25, but it forced me to use their application. And it forced me to open my eyes and say like, wow, this is amazing. I need to eat anyway. I'm stuck at my desk most of the time. Now I have like access to hundreds of restaurants at my fingertips. I feel like a DoorDash commercial here. But my point being that like, that's an incentive that it encourages people to like use a product to see a pain point, to see the alleviation of a pain point. Beyond that, okay, so now I'm a sticky user. And beyond that, now I get even more benefit by like referring to other people who would then be, sticky users, so on and so forth. Over time, those incentives, those referral bonuses can decrease over time. And like that's a measure of a successful product, because like you've generated organic traction. In any case, so the unfortunate part of Monad right now is that since we are in development, there's no way to test it out just yet, but I guarantee you it's coming soon. So yeah, look out for that.
I think this is a great strategy. Honestly, like one of the best way to do marketing is especially in crypto, is to airdrop incentive. You actually give part of the network to the participants, and then give them like some small rewards for them to like just follow the Twitter, retweet, talk about it, and even refer their friends. This is one of the best way, to be honest. And I think that on top of it, really just to build amazing products that people love to use and solve certain problems. At the same time, once they love it and have actual like benefits, I think a lot of people will just talk about it on social media without any actual like paid marketing. I think that is one of the most like authentic form of marketing, and that get people super excited to use it. And I mean, ultimately, I think the application layers have to be better more than infrastructure in the very long term. Otherwise, I think we as an industry will kind of fail. And if you look at the internet, early stage internet, people buy into, let's say, Cisco and Oracle as the infrastructure investments. But nowadays, if you look at the market cap of all of the application, consumer-based application that build on top of internet protocol, is actually a lot bigger than the combinations of all of the infrastructure, including AWS involved. So if you look at like JP Morgan, Meta, if you look at Visa, if you look at Google, all of the market cap added together add so much more value. So I think ultimately the best form of marketing is to really build the best products, and people just talk to each other and they will just use it afterwards.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about retail marketing, and I think the retail marketing space in exchanges is fairly well understood. I think one of the things people don't talk about a lot, and it's something we thought about a lot when we built Vertex, is my team come mainly from a trading background. And I think most DEXs, my experience running crypto trading operations was most DEXs said they wanted liquidity, but when it came down to supporting us as a trading firm, we're actually really poor at doing so. The whole focus was getting retail users. And I think that's the reason when you go to a lot of DEXs, actually liquidity is kind of shit, right? We don't talk about it. We say DeFi is the future of finance, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is a lot of products are just not usable. And so our whole thing when we built Vertex was build the product we want. So that meant design, efficiency, all the good things, make it as good as possible. But then just do the hard yards. Like if a trading firm calls us or messages us, we have a business policy. We respond within 15 minutes. If we don't respond within 15 minutes, someone says, we're sorry, can't respond within 15 minutes. That's a response. This is all basic customer service shit, but people don't do it. And honestly, like when we talk to the trading firms that work with us and we deal with all the top trading firms in the space, the feedback we get is that our exchange is the best. And really it's just because we don't make them feel like dicks for working with us. It's just being grateful and working with them and saying thank you. And that's like basic doing the work stuff. But when you talk about BD, making calls to these guys every month and say, are you happy? Do you like what's happening? Tell us what we should change. And then we change it as they say they want it. And that has honestly been like a huge recipe for success. And it's pretty simple. It just takes some work and organization.
Awesome. Amen. All right. So we're coming up on time, but I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds each. And I'm sure a lot of people in the room today are either interested in the question of, how to get liquidity onto a new chain or protocol, or, or are just like generally like working on it. So given that all of you have experience there, I want you to all to tell them one thing each that you wish you knew when you started. It can be like a mistake you made or just a realization you came to too late. But, some sort of like piece of kind of like wisdom and learning that might be helpful to folks that are kind of in an earlier stage of a similar journey. So Smokey, kick us off.
Yeah, this one might be extremely obvious as of late, but I think it's important to not underestimate the absolute massive liquidity that exists in the APAC region right now, especially when it comes to Bitcoin within Hong Kong, everything in between. So if you look at Bitcoin liquidity in Asia, I think that's the one thing that you should not fade right now, especially if you're looking at bootstrapping TVL for a new network. Look at groups like BounceBit, look at Merlin Chain, between 2 billion and 500 million of TVL within a span of days. I think that's gone wildly overlooked by a number of the protocols I've talked to over the last few months.
I think a general thing for me would be, maybe it's not necessarily that we haven't considered it, but like rather keeping it top of mind is to really focus on product market fit. Like there's, I think there's so much to be said of being like steadfast in your convictions rather than chasing of the moment narratives. So, with Monad, as Smokey had mentioned, there is a lot of block space out there that just isn't utilized, but that's across a ton of different networks. And there's a ton of trade-offs with many different networks. There are several that are actually filling block space. And that's kind of the intersection that we found to be PMF for Monad. We're providing significant performance on EVM. So anyway, I would just say like the focus should be really on product market fit. Like you shouldn't have to rely on artificial incentives in the long term. That definitely will help with bootstrapping. Sorry, what's the word? Cold start problem. Sorry, I had a brain fart. Definitely helps with the cold start problem, but like ultimately you need to generate a flywheel of like users that are, organically tractioned within a specific product, whether that's a network or whether that's a project that's deployed on a network.
One thing I wish I'd known earlier to attract liquidity is that we always like underestimate the sort of the what they call like whale management or VIP customer management. I feel like at the end of the day, they want not just a code products. They want a service. They want somebody to talk to. Just like we said, they want to have a special channel. If they have questions, you answer them within 10 minutes and then bring them to events, meet them in person, buy them gifts. I think those are all like super.
Bribe them.
Yeah, actually just be like a human being with them and then let them feel like there is some warmth with your protocol. And they'll use it. They'll use it for a long time and then recommend to their friends. So I think that off-chain part is definitely overrated.
One thing I wish I'd done differently, wear more animal heads to conference panels. I think actually, on a serious note, that I think the Berachain guys, I think one thing they do amazingly is bring a sense of fun to shit. I think given I'm a TradFi boomer in my background, like you have a tendency to be too serious.